Hello, hello, hello. How we doing? How we doing? What is going on, everybody? Yeah, no break next week. No break. It's been a minute since we've had just a continuous stretch of chapters. Kuma flashback. What are we talking about? I like the Brook flashback. I thought this was a unique flashback. Narukami says this flashback could have been one chapter shorter, but that's about it. Anything more subjective? I think the flashback was ultimately exactly the right length. I mean, it's really not a. It's like a 2.5 chapter flashback, right? It's extremely short in the grand scheme of things. I think Oda could have gone. I don't think it could have been any shorter. If you make it any shorter, then it loses its emotional weight. I think it had just the right length to give it emotional weight. I think the music. I think the previous chapter really boosted it. The music angle, I think, is a creative spin on flashbacks that Oda hasn't done yet. I think it went very well. I think if Oda had wanted to make it a longer flashback, he definitely could have to give it more emotional, because the only thing is that the relationship between Brook and Luvin and even Brook and Candle, it's all very it's deep in terms of what the story tells us, but it's shallow in the sense that how much time we get to spend with it as a reader goes by pretty fast. Um, so I don't know. I would say that if Oda really wanted to turn this one into like a hard hitting flashback, like one of the all time greats, I think he could have spent a bit more time on it. But I think it's maybe for some people it's already an all time great. I don't know. Maybe some people dislike it. I think that it served its purpose for the length of time it was. Like this wasn't a Kuma level flashback, I don't think, but I think it's pretty damn good. Like I personally rate this definitely above Brook's previous flashback for me, at least. I imagine a lot of people might not feel that way. I know a lot of people love Brook's previous flashback. I think a lot of it depends on if you read it in the manga first or the anime. I think the anime is going to do wonders with this flashback because anytime you got music written into One Piece, naturally the anime is going to do a way better job with it than the manga. And I think the anime is going to pace this flashback out perfectly because just a little bit more like last chapter was just very montage heavy because it had the Oda uses I've talked about this before. Oda uses montages to show characters bonding very fast. He uses it all the time in flashbacks, right? Because you got to communicate a complex you got to communicate a very close relationship in a very short amount of page space, right? So montage is the way to go, right? So last chapter when I was kind of speed running, he's like, let me fit in like here's the Brook Candle flashback. See, they were close. Okay, here's the Brook Shuri flashback. All right, see here they were close too. All right, so checked off. So I thought those went by a little fast, but I think the ideas that hit the way Oda executed the final third of last chapter and then the concluding moments of the flashback that we got this chapter, I thought were all very good. Um Kakashi Snitch 925, thanks to the two. Not gonna lie, I don't like Luffy punching Emu like that. It's tricky because it's just like I'm really curious where Oda goes with this. Like Luffy punching characters always feels really good. Not always, like it generally feels really good, like a character who really has it coming. But here it feels a little bit like I don't know, like with like the big bads, you don't want it to be too easy, like with like yeah, we get it. They're really evil and you want to see Luffy just come up and punch them, right? But you don't want it to be too easy. Like when Luffy first came across Crocodile, he couldn't just punch him and take him out. Like, or obviously Luffy's not taking him out with this punch, but he had to work a lot to actually get to the point where he could land a punch. So the first round was just a no go, right? With Luffy and Kaido in Act 1, Luffy opens up with just like showing up and hitting Kaido with an elephant gun, and it's funny, and Luffy smashes Kaido into the ground, but he doesn't actually hurt him, right? So with Emu, it's clear he's already hurt him. That's kind of the thing, like, Luffy do Flamingo, Luffy, like the big bads, it usually feels like it should be a bit more earned. And I think it's just a really weird choice too to make it just be yeah, the flashback length is fine. I think the flashback is exactly how long it should be personally. Um I don't want to overreact to the emu situation because it's like, it just started. But it is really all I can say is that it's really bizarre that emu can't just walk up and like punch like fucking Kizaru blocked Luffy's first go at it. Like to me it would have been way more satisfying to see Luffy in base show up and just like sock Kizaru after all of the experience that they went through at Sabaody. That would have been really satisfying, and Luffy be like, see, we're 100 times stronger now. But instead, that's like Luffy shows up, kicks Kizaru. Kizaru actually blocks it fine. Luffy's like, we're 100 times stronger now, and then proceeds to struggle in Gear 4th till he resorts to Gear 5, right? Um, Warkiri, Luffy like does like 4 punches and none of them work, right? Like, or at least a couple big ones or whatever. So it is just kind of bizarre that it's like, well, Imu's the character that Oda's built the most hype for and really given the most weight towards, and then it's like, okay, well, that just doesn't. Luffy didn't really do any like. It wasn't hard for Luffy to land the first punch there. I think Oda just wanted a satisfying moment. I think he wanted a satisfying moment, but it's just a little complicated because I feel like giving a satisfying moment just for the sake of it rather than one that it feels like the protagonist needs to earn. I just feel like Luffy, I don't know. I don't know. Let's wait and see next chapter, you know. Narukami says the punch felt like a Valve release, like a climax for Luffy being gone so long and eating so much, but it doesn't reflect the upcoming fight. I think if Luffy had been like I think if Imu had fucked up Luffy before this or something and like just let things drag out a little bit more painful, like to me that's fine. I get the concept and I agree, but I think that it shouldn't have been in Luffy's first encounter with Imu, you know? Let him struggle first or something like that, you know? To Peter Treviso, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 14 months. I want to defend Emu, but this proves Blackbeard final villain 200%, so how much longer to avoid flashback? It's going to happen way sooner than we think, possibly before 250. Before 250. Before 250. Before 250. Like 250? Does Gunko trait connect to Blackbeard 2 Devil Fruits theory? Oh, I never even thought about the connection to the Blackbeard 2 Devil Fruits with the Gunko trait. That would be really cool. I mean, Blackbeard doesn't have those eyes, but maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I think Blackbeard final villains. I think Emu's stock as final villain just like it's done, right? Like I wouldn't like Emu to be the final villain after this, you know? Like it just does not feel right, you know? Tom, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 44 months, man. Started a new depression treatment recently. Hope it shows results. I'm sorry to hear that, man. I did not know that that's what you were experiencing. Thanks for the content. It's been helping keeping me afloat for a long time. Kaiji. I have not tried Kaiji. I've not tried Kaiji. I'm sorry about that. But there was another gambling manga that was suggested to me recently, right? Like last stream. So I might I'll make this promise to you. I will check out Kaiji before that other gambling manga. I'm sorry to hear that, man, but I I sincerely hope that it shows results. And all I can say is that I'm happy to hear that watching my videos, streams, etc. does help to whatever degree that it does. So I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, shouts in the chat for TomTom. Everybody shouts in the chat for TomTom. Again, I try to mention this, but I don't know if you guys know, but lots of times when we join, we have streams and tier lists and stuff are already made. TomTom's the one that did it in the background, and he's just been an OG in the streams for a long, long time. So everybody shouts in the chat for TomTom. Kaiji, yeah, I don't know. One of the reasons I'm probably not going to start a manga in the immediate future, like next couple weeks, is I'm deeper into Better Call Saul. I'm deeper into Better Call Saul. No spoilers. I'm a bit of a way through season 2. No spoilers. I don't want to derail the stream or anything like that, but I think last stream I talked about how I was going through Better Call Saul and I wasn't really feeling it. I was only like 5 episodes deep, right? Literally the next episode, I'm pretty sure it was like episode 6 of season 1. It's no big spoiler, but like I think when the Kettlemans go back to Saul, and then I see Saul having to be I think from then on, I think the show just turned for me, and now I'm finding it more and more, uh, more and more riveting. Like, I would love to. I'm gonna watch some episodes tonight and stuff. So, yeah, I'm really liking Better Call Saul. Um, yeah, yeah. A friend described it to me, which is that like a big appeal of the show is, not just everything that happens to the characters in the drama, but a lot of it is just seeing how Jimmy has to come up with ways to kind of be like he comes up with clever ideas and schemes and seeing how they work out, you know? Um, and I think I started to see more of that immediately after I got over that. Because I think the very beginning, I'm harping on this too much. I think the very beginning of the show, I think was trying to, it felt to me like, okay, it's trying to do too many little connections to Breaking Bad. It's like, okay, we get Tuco in the first episode. It felt like fan service, and I felt like the scene with Jimmy and Tuco in the desert was just ridiculous. Um, it's like, oh, Mike. I actually don't care about much about Mike's sob story about his son or whatever. I am more interested in everything now, like modern day stuff as it's playing out. Um, yeah, I think it just took me a little bit to start like finding Jimmy's like fight to make make things happen at every turn more and more interesting. So yeah, I'm enjoying the show a lot more now. Good characters, good character dynamics and conflicts. Monkey with Stick, thanks for the 5. Apply your Uranus future sight theory from 6 years ago to Gunko's eye instead of the hat, and it fits down to her fruit. Also, do you get my email? I assuming that your email is what you mentioned. I gotta. I think I think I know what you're talking about. Um, it was in reference. Was it in reference to the 5 hour stream, the last stream? Um, if so, I think because I got two emails about that actually. I don't want to say, just don't say anything, but um, I know what you're saying. I think it's okay. I think it's okay in the sense that like I don't mind that much, if that makes sense. So I'm please don't elaborate any further in chat, but thank you. I do appreciate you looking out. Um, Uranus equals future sight theory. Yeah, the thing is that like if Gunko's eyes are the hat, that would be or if Gunko's eyes allow omniscience or something. That'd be really cool. But my question is then like, what's the deal with Pudding's third eye? Because it feels like there's a lot of overlap in terms of concept there, right? Also, let's get the stream let's go up to 50 real quick. Tip tier Treviso, thanks to the 2. If Luffy didn't hurt Emu, they say he isn't a Yonko. No, because to me it's like we already saw like all six of the old gen like not damage Emu's shadow, right? Now, obviously we realize later on that like not damaging Emu's shadow doesn't mean you can't damage Emu. Those are two separate things, right? But uh like earlier on in this very arc, it was already kind of made to feel like Emu's way above everybody else. And then, you got Loki who should be at least as strong as the old generation, if not stronger, and he's really struggling with Emu, right? It's not like and Luffy, it's like last arc he was struggling. How do I say this? Just think about last arc, right? Last arc, Luffy couldn't even come up and sock Kizaru like this. Like, and no offense to Kizaru, Kizaru's an admiral, etc., but Emu is god of this world. Like, he should be well far past Kizaru. Luffy couldn't even roll it. Luffy couldn't even do this to Warkiri with a free hit. So it is kind of bizarre to be like, right, so Luffy couldn't even do a surprise attack on Kizaru and land a clean hit, you know? And he couldn't do it in gear 4th. He couldn't do it till he got to gear 5th, right? But then he just rolls up on God, like not the final boss of the story essentially, but the big bad boss of the world as is, and then he just did that randomly. That feels really bizarre. Um, yeah. I don't think that's like a like I wouldn't expect Big Mom to roll up and land a free hit on Emu. I wouldn't expect Kaido to roll up and land a free hit. I don't have expectations for any character in the story to be able to. You guys remember like when I don't get it. This is like two things because I said that I think that Roger's Hockey Bloom could drive out Emu, and that was like really controversial at the time. But now people are like, oh yeah, base Luffy rolling up and like just socking Emu in the mouth and making him bleed when his hockey is probably nowhere close to Roger's. That's totally all good, right? Like I don't know. Tala Jahan, thanks for bringing Yonko Chairman for 25 months. A very misplaced flashback should have happened when Emu left back to Marijua, but before Emu declared he's coming in person, Elbaf killed the momentum. I don't know. I don't know. The tricky thing is, so like, how to explain this? Oda's trying to do a momentum wave right now. So the flashback kind of had to ride that momentum wave. So in the sense of like, if you just look at the overall story flow, okay? Look at the story flow. We had the Straughts kind of dealing with the Gods Knights and the MMAs and stuff, and that's taken care of. So it's like, yay, we saved Elbaf, right? But then, big plot twist. Everything changes. Emu arrives. Emu arrives, the whole tone shifts, everybody's freaking out. Emu shows up, he's like cutting off Gurd's fingers, he's fucking up the Giants, he's fucking up Zoro, he's fucking up Sanji, he already fucked up Luffy and Usopp. Oh, sorry, not Luffy, Brook and Usopp, right? Like, Luffy and Loki, they're like having to eat and refuel. Everybody's kind of like, oh fuck, we're like really fucked. The Gods Knights are back in action, right? Killingham's created the Zaza monster, right? So the momentum shifts hard into the villain's direction, right? Then, so like, Oda's taking things from like good for the good guys. Then like Emu arrives, everything goes bad for the good guys, right? So the atmosphere became like a lot more tense, heavier, etc., right? Then Oda's having us, he's basically now having us hit the phase where the protagonists make the comeback wave, right? So Zoro's back up, Sanji's back up. They're both off to fight the Gods Knights, right? Luffy's back up. He's coming in to fight Emu. And what else happened this chapter? Brook is like rejuvenated. He's like, I'm gonna go save Shuri, and the rest of the Straughts are like, we're gonna help you save Shuri, right? So it's like Oda wanted a big wave of like positive momentum, right? So because of that, I think he felt like he had to plant the Brook flashback alongside the rest of the heroes basically getting back in action. Does that make sense? Because I think he felt like, now is the moment that momentum shifts back towards the heroes to some degree. So, you want Brook to basically remember, like, part of that is Brook remembering, his protege, apprentice, whatever you want to, his bonds with Shuri, yada yada, and being like, I'm gonna save her, yada, or I'm gonna put my faith in her, or whatever, and all the other Straughts being like, yeah, they're all rallying, Luffy's getting back in the action, Zoro and Sanji are about to start fighting the Gods Knights. So does that make sense? I can understand why, from Oda's perspective, in terms of flow, like emotional flow, he might have felt like this makes more sense. So I don't know. Maybe we look back at the rest of the arc when it's done and be like, okay, maybe it didn't make sense to go there, for the flashback to go there, but I think it's like okay, because he got it out of the way right before all the fights are gonna start, unless you count Loki versus Emu. Loki versus Emu is kind of like just a placeholder fight, it's happening. But like the heroes actually, kicking ass and stuff seems like it's gonna happen from now on. Yeah, his foster daughter. Yeah. Hydrogen. That's a good name. Thanks for the jewels. Don't know what that is. Gosh, Bandit, thanks to two. I don't think I can lose. Came back to haunt Morge. I'm not even gonna bother. I'm not even gonna bother. I'm not even gonna bother. Um, because I'm giving it a bit more of a pass here, just because it's like at the very least, the Straw Hats were like one, I don't want to get into the weeds with all of this stuff again, and two, at the very least, before Luffy came charging back in saying, I don't think I can lose, the big difference between this versus in Wano is that in Wano, all the momentum, like, everybody's spirits were already really, really positive. Like, again, it's not just, like, I don't think we can lose was the cherry on top that sealed the whole thing, right? That made it just absurdly ridiculous. But before that, everyone is literally like, party planning, laughing, joking, they're having a good, like, everybody's in super like chilled out spirits and just talking about it like it's obvious that they're gonna win. And then that quote came at the like, that was like the final like the straw that broke the camel's back, which was like, this is just getting ridiculous. Like they're party planning on the way to the final battle. Everybody's cheering like the whole way, like, we're gonna win. It's obvious. They're literally saying it's obvious they're gonna win. And finally the battle starts, and Hyogoro's like, I don't think we can lose this, guys, right? Compare that to this situation, right? At the very least, so far, setting the flashback aside, every single chapter, every character's dialogue, including Luffy's so far, has been very stressed out, very worried, very like, oh shit just hit the fan. You know, last you go to Zoro, he's saying like things are about to get really bad, or like this is getting out of hand. Sanji's like fucked up, and he's like, we just gotta find a way or whatever. Luffy before this was saying like, I have to eat, otherwise we're fucked. Like I gotta get to max strength because this is the craziest haki I've ever seen. Like Luffy's visibly worried, Loki was worried, everybody was freaking out. So this feels more like traditional, like just like you've kind of established the stakes and you've established what a stressful situation this is. And now the hero coming back in being like, I'm gonna win this time. That's a very different vibe than the Onigashima situation, where it's literally like it was literally, it would be like if you're at the final battle of Lord of the Rings and the entire way that they're traveling over to fucking Mordor, they're like, yeah, this is gonna be a fucking walk in the park, guys. Yeah, what do you guys, how are we gonna celebrate after this? This is gonna be easy. It's pretty much a guarantee that we're gonna win. Yeah, we'll kick their asses. Frodo will toss the ring into the mountain. I literally don't think we can lose, right? Very different vibes, even though the verbiage is ultimately the same. Like, I don't think I can lose. I don't think we can lose. One, we don't know what the outcome is going to be for Luffy here. But two, in one scenario, I don't think we can lose was the the continuation of like just a wave of like stress-free, carefree positivity heading into a final battle, versus this is just like a sort of spark of like renewed confidence after a lot of tension, uncertainty, to some degree fear and worry from overall the group of protagonists, right? So it's two very different scenarios. But even then, I don't necessarily think I love hearing Luffy saying, I don't think I can lose, especially if he then proceeds to kick Imu's ass, you know? Solomon Water, thanks for the 2. Is Luffy being set up to be humbled? He seemed cocky. I mean, that's what I thought before the raid, but that didn't really matter, right? Before the raid, like every single fucking person in the alliance was extremely cocky, extremely arrogant. Like you can kind of go down the list. It's not just Hyogoro, right? Like Luffy talks about how obvious it's gonna win. He's party planning, right? Zoro and Sanji literally have conversations throughout Onigashima multiple times that it's obvious we're gonna win, right? Like it happens throughout the art. Like Kaido even talks about it. He's like, unless I literally kill you, everybody down there is literally gonna think that you're just gonna win, right? Like it's just it's the overwhelming sentiment throughout the raid was like extremely cocky and arrogant from the protagonist side, and then they won anyway, right? So I'm not really gonna put much stock in how Oda is setting things up here. I'm just gonna let things play out how they play out. Hold on. Bob the Joe Bob, thanks to 2. You skipped my earlier super chat by mistake. My bad, man. Hold on. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, man. Thank you for the 5. I think people are overreacting. When Luffy first hit Kaido at the end of 922, it looks like he hurt him initially too. I think the difference is that here there's clearly blood that comes up, so it's like I don't think there's a debate here, right? Like Luffy definitely hurts Imu here, right? Like that's just like it's different, right? I think Luffy definitely hurts Imu here. So that is fundamentally different than the Kaido situation. Because, like, Imu's coughing up blood, right? Imu's coughing up blood. Again, it's just a very strange choice when, like, last arc, why couldn't Luffy do this to Kizaru? Why couldn't he do it to Warkiri? When Luffy, like, did 2 much stronger attacks on Warkiri, you know? Like, it's just weird. Virgil Hawkins, thanks for the Pirate King tier member for 45 months, man. Thoughts on Chuck so far, and who are your favorite characters so far? Also, do you have a favorite episode? I mean, so I don't have. Okay, let me think. I sincerely like all of the main characters so far. So that's a really good side. Like every single recurring character in Better Call Saul so far is a good uh enjoyable character in their own right. And I think that except for Mike's daughter-in-law, but you know, I think she's meant to be an unlikable character as we progress or something, I'm guessing. Based on how she's kind of trying to squeeze a bit of money out of Mike. But aside from that, like every single, I think that's a really good sign of a show where every single scene that we cut to, like Chuck, I like as a villain. Okay, one little thing for me about Chuck is that I tried Better Call Saul way back, got half of first season one in, and then dropped it. Right, and during that time, I thought Chuck's a good guy or whatever. Then at some point over the years, I saw some YouTube video title or something like that about like why Chuck McGill is like the worst character, like why he sucks or whatever, basically like that. And that was odd to me because I was like, oh, okay, so I guess there's more to this character that we would have found out that I would have found out later on. And he's actually a pretty shitty dude. I just didn't get that far. So I already kind of had that tipped off to me. Just, you know, a mini spoiler that like Chuck is not as wholesome a guy as you would expect early on. Um, so I was kind of waiting for some time. Like as season one was progressing, I was kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Um, on Chuck, and at one point I was like, maybe I was mistaken. Like maybe Chuck is what do you call? Like maybe I misread the title of that YouTube video or something like that or whatever. But then inevitably, this is minor spoilers or whatever, right? Like inevitably you do find out. I think that's a great twist for the story. Sets up the Jimmy Chuck dynamic. I think that's when I really got hooked on the show because I was starting to really enjoy it. And then once it got to that, I was like, okay, this show is gonna have some great character dynamics. Love it, right? Um, favorite episode? I guess it would be the episode where there's. Let me see. Let me just look at season one, season two. I've really liked a lot of the episodes so far. Obviously, I'd say. I mean, these are all good ass episodes. I think when we found out the truth, I think when we found out the truth with Chuck and the real situation with Howard Hamlin and everything, I think that was the high point so far for me. But it's been very enjoyable. The only thing that I don't love, um, is not don't love, but how do I explain this? I think some of the like you know Slip and Jimmy and stuff like that. A lot of his cons are dumb in the sense that like this is like a minor complaint, but like if you look at his cons and schemes, a lot of them are just dumb in the sense that like they will put in a crazy amount of effort. Like Jimmy and his you know his friend the big guy who passed away or whatever. They'll put in a crazy amount of time and effort and like a huge performance to make like $50 and be really happy about it. It's just bizarre. That's what throws me sometimes. Like there's a scene where Jimmy and his friend are like, "We're gonna run a scam on this guy over at the other side of the bar," and I'm like, I'm interested. I'm like really curious to see what the scam is, and the scam is very elaborate. It's like a 5-10 minute scene or something like that, and I'm like so curious, like where's it all going and everything like that. And then they get to the end of the scam, they successfully pull it off, and it's like they get $100 off of this guy, and so it's like $50 each, and I'm just like, this wasn't brilliant. Like this, like I'm all for like cool scams and like not all for I'm in TV context, right? I'm all for that and everything like that, but it only feels clever to me if it's like worth the like if there's like a there's actually like something big that they're scoring or something like that. It's bizarre. It's like you tricked a guy. You spent like you guys clearly practiced and practiced a very elaborate routine that probably only works like one out of every few times, right? And you run it on this guy and you put a lot of effort into it and you both win like $50 each. You literally just work at this bar and make that that same money. Like it's that's what threw me. Like there was a scene where Jimmy and Kim. This is my. I'm gonna be done talking in a second. Jimmy gets Kim to go along with a little scheme of his. Like they want to drink this very expensive tequila. That's like Jimmy wants to drink this very expensive tequila that's at this restaurant, right? So then he and the woman that he's with, Kim, he's trying to get her to go along with it. He's like, no, we both deserve to drink this tequila. So then he sees some rich asshole dude or whatever, because that's how they're written. And he's like, oh, I know what to do. We'll scam him to get him to pay for all of this tequila. And the scam, like, but the thing is, you don't realize what the scam is till the end. Like, I thought that the scam, like, he just points to him and is like, oh, we're gonna trick this guy. So I'm like really curious. I'm like, how are they gonna take this guy's money? Like, what are they gonna do? And this guy's very rich, so how much money are they gonna take off of him? They sit down and they probably spend like 2 hours in that restaurant pretending to be prospective clients for his like stock stuff or whatever, right? And you know, they're getting him to buy tequila and stuff for them the whole time. And I'm like really curious. I'm like, so how do they get his money at the end? How do they get his money? And they don't. Jimmy leaves, and then the whole scam was that he got the guy to pay the bill for the tequila. And yeah, it was expensive tequila, but I'm just like, what did Jimmy and Kim get out of this? They had to sit through like 2 hours of a dinner with this guy that they don't like, pretending to talk stocks with him the whole time. And like, yeah, you get to drink fancy tequila while doing it, but generally, the fun part of drinking good alcohol is actually having fun while doing it, you know, like Jimmy and Kim drinking it together on a date, or like drink like socializing in a fun way, like with friends or partying or something like that, and having really like it kind of defeats the they're sitting there for 2 hours faking being into stocks so that they can drink expensive alcohol. That's not how alcohol fucking works. Like nobody in their right mind would be like, oh yeah, I would spend 2 hours of my life like pretending to talk stocks with somebody I don't like and faking my name and faking my relationship or whatever just so that I can be sipping on expensive alcohol. Like that's fucking nobody does that. That's not enjoyable. That defeats the purpose of the alcohol. Like in the first place, alcohol, like, you know, even fancy tequila, it's not going to taste amazing, right? The idea is like, you know, it tastes good for tequila and everything like that, but a lot of it is the experience you're getting out of it. You want to be having fun, right? You want to be relaxing or partying or doing something, right? Like part of it is getting drunk. You know, this was so dumb. I was waiting and waiting to see like what's the brilliant scam that he's pulling off in all of this, and it's like there was no scam. He just wasted 2 hours of his life so that he could drink more expensive alcohol than normal, and then the other guy pays the bill. I'm like, you just wasted your time and this guy's time, and you didn't even get to enjoy the tequila. You could have drank cheap tequila and just spent 2 hours actually having fun. Anyway, that's my only issue with some of Jimmy's like scams, because I'm just like, I thought he's like this great con artist, but he's a great con artist when he applies it in the lawyer sphere, and that's where it's really cool. I mean, he's not even a con artist then, he's just clever and cunning. But I wish that they figured out more clever schemes for him to do in his, you know, slip and Jimmy ways, if that makes sense. Because like Better Call Saul would basically play out like a 5-10 minute scene where like Jimmy's doing some stuff and you don't know what the scheme is, and then like you get to the end of the scheme and it's like, oh, okay, so that was it. That was like really, really a waste of time. Like you got to be able to come up with better ways like to get more money than what you do out of this, you know? Like that's my only complaint. That's my only complaint. As a lawyer myself, I must say that you don't understand the depths of our alcoholism. Yeah. All right. Anyway, continuing on. Continuing on. And I'm seeing some spoilerish discussion down there. No spoilers about Better Call Saul. I don't want to hear about what Jimmy and Kim become like or what they're shown to be later or anything like that. No spoilers, all right? It's called petty crime or hustling. Yeah, but not for like there's a ratio, right? Putting in like 2 hours of work for $25, at that point it's not really like you're not making any realistic money out of it, right? And it's sure it's implied that Jimmy very much enjoys it, but he also actually enjoys making money on like it's almost like wasting the viewer's time to be like, okay, what is the payoff for this? The payoff is like nothing, right? Like there's got to be some bar where it's like, okay, we just watched Jimmy waste like 5 hours of his life to make like $4, and yeah, he tricked somebody, but who really? It's like who cares? Like that guy's not gonna miss $50, and $50 doesn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Anyway, all right, this is my only complaint after a 15-minute rant. The part of it is because I've got nobody to talk about it with, in real time, because most people have seen Better Call Saul already. So like I've got like 10 episodes worth of like thoughts brewing in me, and so it just comes out a little bit. But that's my only complaint about the show, which is just that like the scams, I always get very interested when he's starting one of his scams, and then by the end I'm like, okay, I guess that was really clever. That's the only thing. I think everything that Jimmy's done so far in lawyer mode, I've always found that to be really cool and fun and effective in the way that it pays off. So, anyway, continuing on. Continuing on. All right. Favorite characters, I'll just say this real quick. Obviously Jimmy's probably my favorite character. Mike I've loved since Breaking Bad, right? So two of the classic characters from there are here. This new dude, I think his name is Nacho. I feel like it's Nacho. I'm liking this dude quite a bit. He's an intriguing character. Want to see where that goes. Even the knockoff Walter White, like the nerdy version of Walter White, the loser version of Walter White, like that failed like drug dealer or whatever. That guy was a fun character. Kim is a great character. Chuck is a great villain. My low key secret favorite character. Howard Hamlin. What an about turn. Really like that dude. Such a reasonable dude. I like that guy a lot. It's just like there's not much to like. It's not the deepest character. There's not that much going on, but just like the realization that he was just like a normal dude running the firm the whole time, and like Jimmy just hated him the whole time, like intensely, which made us the viewer hate him. But then you get to the end of the season, it's like, well, why do we really hate him again? I guess just because Jimmy hated him, and then from then on, he's just like a nice dude to Jimmy. Um, Eric, thanks for the 2. Yeah, Oda nerfed Luffy and Egghead. It's bullshit. I mean, it's yet to be determined if Oda nerfed him, or if that's just what Luffy's strength is supposed to be at, and Oda's just overdoing it with him right now. Because to me, it's like the reverse. Like, my perspective is that Luffy at his absolute peak, right, between what we saw in Wano and Egghead, is about equal to Kaido, right? And even then, it doesn't mean that much because, like, I would argue even having the edge on Kaido based on handicaps once it came time for Gear 5 Luffy versus Kaido, but people will differ in their opinion. But Luffy has time limits and stuff like that, so overall, obviously not as strong as Kaido. But, like, I'd say the rough comparison for Luffy, give or take, is, like, peak Luffy Gear 5, give or take, is Kaido, right? He doesn't really have better feats than what he showed in Wano after that, so that is peak Luffy from what we know, right? I don't think it would make sense for Kaido to just roll up in base form and smack Imu like that, personally. So, so to me, this is just bizarre. Bob the Joe Bob, we covered this. Mitchum, thanks to the 5. Yeah, I think Imu will go down here, and it's probably not going to be satisfying. Imu has to go, otherwise the final war has no stakes. No, because, I mean, Blackbeard will likely be the final villain at this point, right? So I don't think Imu will go down here, but I think they will fight back and drive him out. And then in the final war, Imu gets to be a villain for somebody else, like Dragon or something like that. And then Luffy gets a new, tougher dance partner like Blackbeard. I don't think Luffy or Loki, I don't think anyone's soloing Imu this arc. So because no one's soloing Imu this arc, he still remains an effective, like, threat in the final war. But he's no longer the type of villain that you'd be like, oh, I really want to see Luffy 1v, like, I really want this to be Luffy's opponent, you know? It'd be like, okay, we established he's strong, but we already kind of saw Luffy and the gang take him on, so let's see some fresher stuff for them in the final war, and then somebody else gets Imu. Sid B, thanks for the 2. The Law stream was the sub Wano analysis, lol. The Law stream. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Tip to you, Treviso, thanks for the 2. You think if Emu falls that the world government will collapse? Hey, maybe Oda's going for some crazy route where, like, people have talked about this. Maybe you've talked about this? I forget. Let's get Streamlight up to 50. Where, like, fucking Shamrock and Garling and stuff like that take over Emu. But I don't think that's quite, I think Emu needs to go down in the final war, personally. Like, 800 years of history and stuff like that. Like, it should go down in the war against the world. Like, he should go down in the war against the world, but I don't think he has to be the final villain. I think when Emu falls, that the current world government system, Celestial Dragon system, essentially collapses. Empty Mind, thanks for the 5. In the anime, in the mural. We already got to the mural? Fuck. I didn't realize that. You can slightly see it, but Harold has red hair. Meanwhile, Rock's in the mural. I didn't know we got to the mural already. You can slightly see it, but Harold has red hair. Meanwhile, Rox has bluish hair. Harold has red hair. That's interesting. Also, Emo getting punch ruins the tension. I mean, let's see what happens next chapter. Like, again, I don't want to make any conclusions off this. As long as it's not easy. Like, I don't even mind if Luffy and Loki successfully, like, hold off Emu. As long as they don't beat the shit out of him, right? If they successfully hold off and do a good job against Emu, that's cool. You know, I'm good with that. It's two very strong characters, right? But just don't make Emu a joke. That's my only hope, right? Because Oda introduced him in such an effective manner, you know? Harold has red hair, meanwhile Rox has bluish hair. That's interesting. Okay. Julian yeah, like, the other comparison I was making was, like, you know, Luffy did punch Kaido in Act 1, you know? And, like, there was a chapter that ended with that cliffhanger, and then Luffy got his ass beat, right? So it's not like tension goes away just because a character lands a hit. But I do think, like, with it being Emu in particular, and Luffy landing a hit so easily, and, like, making him cough up blood and just make that expression, I think that is odd. Julian Reed, thanks for the 2. Did you want the Strats pissing themselves in fear? No, I don't like arguments that are just like, oh, you don't like them, like, literally party planning and saying it's obvious that they're going to win, therefore you want them to piss themselves in fear. I think literally exactly what we got in like, I will never understand why people are so confused by what I mean by tension. You can literally see it. Like, in Elbaf, just a few chapters back, that was tension. You can look at, like, Oda cut around all the characters. You can see characters that are worried, stressed, uncertain. It's not like they're peeing their pants or whatever, but they're not also not being like, oh, fucking God showed up on our island with, like, crazy malicious haki that's, like, rocking all of Elbaf. Well, it's probably not a big deal, and it's probably all gonna be cool, and it's not something for us to worry about, right? That's all that we need. Like, actually make them give a shit and not treat it like it's a given that this situation will be resolved. Like, just look at what, like, literally just, you know, Emu fucks up Zoro, fucks up Sanji, characters are freaking out, yada yada. And then Zoro gets back up, but when he gets back up, he's not like, oh, well, we'll obviously just win anyway. His comment was something like, this situation will get out, like, we'd better hurry, otherwise the situation will get out of hand or whatever. Like, characters just expressing that things are challenging. Characters just expressing that it's not obvious that everything's going to work out. When you treat the story like it's obvious that things are going to work out, then it's like, well, then why are we fucking reading the story? Like, there's no drama to it, right? That's all. Like, it's not like Zoro's peeing himself, but he's also not just like, hey, Sanji, it's obvious we're going to win. That's what he said in Wano. He was literally like, Sanji, it's fucking obvious that we're going to win. And Sanji's like, yeah, it's obvious we're going to win. They're both literally using the word obvious throughout Wano that they're going to win. It's like, you see how it's different? They can still believe they're going to win. I don't want the Strats to be sitting around being like, we're fucked. We just lose. Let's run away. That's not the Strat Pirates I know either. But just take it seriously. That's all. Like, don't act like it's a picnic. Act like it's a fucking final war, you know? That's what I wanted from the raid, and at least here it feels like, you know, they're not treating it like it's a walk in the park. They're treating it like this is a problem. That's all. Just treat it like it's a problem. Not a problem that the solution is guaranteed. Zolden, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 34 months, man. Thoughts on the One Piece trailer? The 3D makes me nervous, but I'm more excited for the action now. Uh, I mean, I think the One Piece will be good. Like, for me, genuinely, the only thing the One Piece has to do is be better than the Toei anime. Just something that's more modern that I can show new people and not be like, yeah, it's very dated and the pacing's slow and the animation might not be the best, but like just and it takes a million episodes, but like just try it and get through like get through 50 episodes or 100 episodes and then it'll start to get to some good stuff or whatever. Like all I want is a fucking modern looking anime without abysmal pacing, that is, that's just an update. That's all I want. The One Piece is that. I feel like people are gonna hold it to some crazy standard, like, oh my god, it's not like Demon Slayer animation. It's like, who the fuck cares if it's not like that we've already got a One Piece anime currently going, right? That is basically unwatchable for large segments of it. We should be happy that we're getting a fresh anime, period. Next week's video, by the way, I will be discussing the anime, right? I think it's silly to have. I mean, unless it's just like randomly really, really bad. I don't know how they can make it really, really bad, but I just think it's comical that people are like, oh, well, it's got some 3D or something like that. It's like, it just has to be better than our fucking current version of East Blue. That's all. And our current version of East Blue, I don't know who sat down to watch it from start to finish in some time. It holds up well, maybe for us, but not by modern standards, not for new people who are trying to get into One Piece. The bar is very, very low. It literally just needs to be better than the Toei version of One Piece. That's all. like, 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 I will never understand people being like, if it's worse than the Toei version of One Piece somehow, then sure, you can critique the One Piece, but if it's not, then it's just like, who gives a fuck? It's like we're lucky we're getting a new version of the One Piece anime, like a redone version of the One Piece anime before One Piece even ends. Like that's pretty good. We're very lucky we're getting that. I don't understand why they don't change the voice actors. It's so lame to me. I mean, if miraculously voice actors could never age, then I would just always be like, let's keep let's keep what worked from the current One Piece anime, right? Let's just keep what, because the problem is that the current One Piece anime works in certain aspects. It works in the sense that the voice acting is phenomenal. The soundtrack is good, right? Everything else visually and pacing wise, that's where it's just like 50-50, and it's kind of like it's just like here or there, and it's in this odd spot where it's like, is it's like good enough that it's that people wouldn't be like, oh, it's just like a straight up bad anime and not recommend it to people, right? But it is good largely because of the story, right? So it's in this weird spot where the One Piece anime, no one would be like, oh, this is just a bad anime, don't watch it, right? But at the same time, it's a very rough anime and it's hit or miss in a lot of spots, right? So it's like it's good enough that it can create really powerful emotional attachments for people and strong memories. And so it's kind of like the One Piece anime that we have right now, for better or worse, does represent how I view a lot of the characters in the world of One Piece and the feel of the series, right? Like I associate the voices and the soundtrack with that. So it's like I wish that we could just have the parts that are good, but just fix the parts that are bad, aka a lot of the visuals, a lot of the pacing. So to me, the new One Piece anime, basically trying to keep the same voice actors and stuff, I mean, I really don't mind it because that's all I really want. Like, for me, if I could have a genie just do a magic wish, would be like, how would you fix the One Piece anime? I'd be like, keep the voice actors, keep the music, fix the visuals, fix the pacing. That's all. All right. Um, so I'm not against them using the same voice actors because that's near and dear to my heart. If all they're doing is fixing the visuals, pacing, scene direction, I'm like, that's good. That's essentially what I want. The problem is the voice actors are very old. That's the issue. It to me, it's not like the fundamental issue is the age that we're not going to be able to have these voice actors forever. That's what I'm concerned about. Not that it's not, you know, not that they should have new voice actors for the sake of having new voice actors. Current One Piece anime in the Elbaf arc is great. I'm not complaining about current One Piece anime. I think One Piece anime has been good since Egghead Island. I mean the totality of the anime. The totality of the anime. Let's get Streamlix up to 50 real quick. Um, As to Carrie, thanks for the 10. I'm sorry, but I really need to get this off my chest. No one noticed we never saw Crocodile's reaction when Sengoku revealed Luffy's fathers. We saw everyone's reaction except Crocodile, both in the anime and manga. Okay, is that important to you because you really care about Crocodile, the character's reactions, or is it important to you because of the Crocomom theories? Wano was great too, just inconsistent. It really wasn't. So again, I'll talk about that more again in next next week's video. But like I am actually looking through I can no longer be critiqued for not watching the Wano anime because I actually have gone through now and watched all of the highlight sections, like the Straw Hat fights and everything like that. Even the Straw Hat fights, like the best scenes, like the best episodes and stuff throughout Wano, and I did go through and enjoyed them to some degree. Even those episodes are like, how do I explain? Generally, like still 60% slow padding, slow pacing, random flashbacks, random even those episodes still have moments of like quick easy animation. It has really good sequences. Like good Sakuga sequences, but even something like Zoro versus King, I think like the highest rated uh anime episode on IMDb or something like or One Piece episode on IMDb. If I go and watch that, like I was shocked. It has a phenomenal ending sequence, right? But the episode as a whole is slow as fuck. Like even the best episode of Wano by people's ratings, right? Even the absolute best episode by people's ratings, even that has several unnecessary flashbacks, a lot of what do you call dragged out moments that are really really not necessary. And Even that actually doesn't have good like great animation from start to finish. It has several it has a phenomenal 11 out of 10 ending sequence, but for an episode as a whole, the animation is like fine animation by other series' standards for the most part. It's really just that final sequence that's amazing. So like it's almost inaccurate to even say like Wano is inconsistent. It's more like like most episodes don't even have those crazy Sakuga sequences, right? So the majority of Wano is not that good because it's just really poor pacing, very very stretched. And then the absolute best episodes, you would say those are inconsistent. Like if you just held them up to other anime standards nowadays, you'd be like, yeah, the Zoro versus King episode, phenomenal, like ludicrously good segment, like 3 minute segment at the end. But the episode as a whole is an inconsistent episode. The episode as a whole is actually still like even the best episode is one that I find myself like skipping parts because it's like, okay, why are we replaying this? Why are we redoing this? Like, why is even this being dragged out? It's just it's just the way it is. Egghead, I think, fixed a lot of those issues, and Elbaf, presumably. Eric says Wano's 3 great episodes. Yeah, that's why I don't like it being said that like Wano is yeah, Wano is a good clip farm. Yeah, that's what I agree with Eric. Is the next week's video because of the remake? Yeah. Um Shafi, thanks a lot. I think Usopp will get that hammer to free Gunko. Oh, that'd be crazy. That's a really good call. That'd be really interesting if that's what happens. And then I wonder I wonder if Gunko can do something, you know? Also, sorry if the lighting, I feel like the lighting might be weird for you guys right now, or a little bit different. So there's less. Okay, so one of my dogs is currently recovering. There's a whole cancer situation going on. So she's recovering from another surgery. So she's in the kennel here. So the lighting has to be dark, except I've got like my, what do you call? My main light set up to go directly at me, but the ceiling light and stuff is off. Julian Reed, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 7 months, man. Surprisingly negative chapter discussion, so I'll say something good. I think it's a good chapter. I think this is a very good chapter. I don't even mind Luffy punching Emu, but a lot of comments were about that, so I was kind of like, how do I say this? I don't think it's good or bad necessarily, as long as Oda doesn't keep. I'm just saying I don't feel that much from it, because my preference for things for when Luffy comes in with a big punch. I think usually there's some other. I mean, I've already belabored this point, but yeah, I don't feel that much from it, but I'm excited of the setup that we're getting with Luffy versus and Loki versus Emu, presumably, and I really like the conclusion to Brook's flashback. Shuri eye info was crazy. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Considering Brook's words last chapter, I think it's a sort of extreme future sight with tie into Gunko's themes as well. You are probably right. Some sort of extreme future sight. Because Brook was saying that she can see the future to some sense. I thought it was just normal observation haki. That is a great point. Great point, Julian Reed. And you're right. Like, her ability also with the arrows and everything, a lot of her quotes, and like the future and fate. I think that's a great point. Tip tier Treviso, thanks to 5. Oda loves to have unbreakable villain defense ability for weaker villains. Logia, Kaido, Big Mom skins to make the threat seem invisible. Emu's got regen. Yeah. I don't know for weaker villains, though. I don't know what you mean by weaker villains, because, like, what you listed are, like, some of the strongest villains, like, Luffy's ever come up against. But yeah. And Emu will presumably regenerate, but, like, has he been successfully regenerating from Loki's attacks? I gotta check. Uh, Kid Smitty94, thanks for the 20. I like all the duality for Brook and Gunko. He came from nothing when she came from riches. He's eternally aged while she's eternally young. Great points. And fighting her arrows attack in the future while Brook brings cuts from the past. Yeah, I guess from the underworld. Yeah, I guess I could kind of see that. But yeah, I think that's some really good points there. Really good points. Henchme987, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 6 months. The new meta is in. Emu is actually a bum. Luffy greater than Loki, greater than Harold, greater than Shanks, greater than Loki. Also, Nami's gonna electrocute Gunko with her plan to troll Brook. I don't know if to troll Brook, but that's something. I'm just gonna wait before any more power scaling takes, you know? Because how do I say this? This arc has thrown previous takes up in the air more than any other One Piece storyline, by far. So I remember when the whole Harold situation was happening, and then Loki versus Harold was happening, and all of that stuff, and people were freaking out. People were like, "Okay, does this mean Loki?" Like, because it didn't make sense to think that Loki would be above old generation character. Like, people were still debating, like, is Loki Yonko level and stuff like that during the first phase of Elbaf, right? So to then switch to be like, wait, is Loki even above, like, likes of Roger, Whitebeard, Rocks, stuff like that? That was a huge wrench in the works. And then the added factor of, like, okay, and then Shanks seemingly defeated Loki and stuff, like, that created a crazy mess of, like, how does any of this make sense, etc. And then the Emu situation just now, like Luffy in base just knocking the shit out of Emu with one base punch when he couldn't do that to Kizaru or like a fucking Gorosei is yet another wrench in the works. So I don't know. Aether, thanks a lot for the jewels, I guess. JP, thanks for the 10. So regular celestial dragons abuse their slaves with small solace that if you're strong enough, you may avoid being captured. But if you're targeted by their actual warrior class, there's no escaping them. Yeah, that seems pretty much for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty fucked. TomTom sent 6-7 for 67 jewels. Aether sent another 6-7 for 67 jewels. Thanks, guys. I will still never understand the jewels, but I appreciate it. Dimian Wright, thanks for the 5. Let's be honest, Morge. Characters almost never train. They either fight and get a power up during the fight, or they're magically stronger going in. Yeah, but that still happens though, right? They either fight and get a power up during the fight, or they're magically stronger going. No, magically stronger going in almost never happens. It happened pre-time skip a lot, but post-time skip, Oda's been pretty strict about it. Like, I don't really know any examples that don't support this. There's never been a time post-time skip that Luffy's been just magically stronger next arc than he was the previous arc without some sort of new power up or training, right? Again, I've talked about this pretty at length. Same applies for Zoro, same applies for Sanji, same applies for the rest of the Stride. Like, Oda's been pretty. I think pre-time skip, Oda was more laissez-faire with things. It was kind of like, yeah, just assume that the Strides are progressively their pre-time skip. Part of it was that the Strides used to get so many fights frequently that it was kind of just believable that, like, yeah, like, Luffy's gonna be stronger as he progresses, over the Grand Line, even if he's not like developing a new gear every single time or whatever, right? Or like Sanji's gonna get stronger as he goes through the Grand Line just by sheer virtue of having to fight a lot of characters, right? Post time skip, the Strides don't get fights that much, right? Anyway, uh, regardless of that post time skip, Oda's been very consistent with how the Strides progression has been. There's never been a time that, yeah, Luffy's just randomly stronger, Um, like we saw base Luffy, was good enough, like, or Gear 2, Gear 3 Luffy for a long time. It was good enough to handle stuff like Don Chinjao, Caesar Clown, Hordy, stuff like that. Run into Doflamingo. Okay, that's not enough. Now you do Gear 4th. Next arc, Gear 4th, no longer quite good enough against Cracker. And then Luffy's not just magically kicking Katakuri's ass, right? It's like, okay, if Gear 4th struggling against Cracker, then Oda's like, well, logically, Luffy shouldn't be able to beat Katakuri. So then Luffy develops an upgrade, right? Finishes out Whole Cake Island, now progressing from fighting Katakuri to a Yonko and Kaido, right? Oda's not just like, oh, Luffy's just randomly entering Wano and now he's strong enough to fight Kaido. That wouldn't make sense. Luffy loses to Kaido very easily. He has to train, lose to Kaido again, get another power up in his fight with Kaido, lose again, get another power up with his fight with Kaido, and then win, right? It's all pretty consistent progression. Oda's not just skipping beats or anything, like, right? Like, same thing with Zoro, right? Zoro good enough to fuck up characters like Pika and shit like that. Even gets a new sword, Enma, so he gets a bit of a upgrade or whatever. Struggles with King, he gets an upgrade. Okay, cool. Now he's stronger, right? Sanji struggled with Virgo, loses to Doflamingo. Doesn't really do much in Whole Cake Island. Goes to Wano. Does fine against Page 1. Losing to Queen. Gets an upgrade. Gets another upgrade. Now he beats Queen. Like, it's all pretty consistent. It would be really bizarre if Oda just starts skipping steps now, JP, thanks for the 20. Blackbeard lacks high-level hockey and a Zoan. Imu has these two things. Imu may be needing a proper vessel or body and has some body-hopping properties. Is the finale going to be these two opposites somehow merging at the end? Somebody else mentioned that to me. Jasser. Jasser, he's the guy I usually go to for translations and stuff like that. He also has this sort of feeling that, like, there'll be a melding of Blackbeard and, Blackbeard and Emu, and I think that's a cool idea. Julian Reed 6030, thanks for the 10. Egghead showed me that the Gorosei and Admiral and Buster Call isn't enough to make him get serious. His true power level, being serious for the first time in 150 chapters, is going to shock y'all. Main character for a reason, still losing though. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you mean by, like, not get serious, because like, I mean, I've talked a lot about in Egghead Island how I felt like Luffy the second time around with Kizaru and Saturn was clearly a lot more serious, right? Like, he acted very differently. He didn't just toss Kizaru away when he grabbed him. He actually like was squeezing him and stuff. Like, Luffy was clearly going light in their first round or whatever, right? So yeah, Luffy clearly could have done more against Kizaru in their first round if he wanted, but at the same time, Kizaru's heart wasn't 100% in this whole situation, so you got an excuse for him as well. I still take Luffy over Kizaru, at least in Gear 5, but I don't think anything was like super conclusive. And then it was very clear that Luffy couldn't damage Warcury. Like, that wasn't a matter of Luffy, Luffy himself comments on this, right? He's like, I can't really damage these guys. I can't uh damage this dude in particular. And Luffy tries multiple times. Like, he does a red rock, which is what he used to damage Kaido, doesn't work. And then he goes Gear 5 and tries again. So it's not like he's just not trying. Like, he is trying, you know? And then he's like, okay, we're running away. And then after that, he's just running away from Warcury, right? I don't think there's any way to really spin it that Luffy could have just destroyed Warcury easily, but didn't. I don't think that's really implied. Um, you know? To Pure Treviso, thanks to the two. Emu and Saturn had the same reaction to Luffy's punch. Uh, yeah, I guess so. To Pure Treviso, thanks for the two. Problem is Kaido is Luffy's target since Dressrosa. You may beat Kaido. Loki's still too strong, says Gaban. Yeah. I don't know the point that you're getting at here, necessarily. Akash, thanks for the two. Luffy using mini gear fourth, muscle balloon around forearm. Sure, I mean, I guess that's good. That still didn't do jack shit to... I mean, these things don't really change much, because that didn't do jack shit to Kizaru. And, on top of that, it's like... Um... Even Gear 5, he couldn't damage Warcury. Like, those things don't really change, right? So, I don't know. My feeling right now is that Oda might be valuing more so just, like, the symbolic like, I think Oda just wants Luffy to punch Emu because it will feel cathartic. And that's kind of just what Luffy's always done. So I'm not even reading too much into this punch necessarily, but I am kind of expressing why I don't really feel that much emotion or excitement from this, because it does feel like if a character's been built up this much, then yeah, landing the first punch on them like should feel really cool and cathartic, but I think it should also feel a little bit like not too easy. So that's where I kind of lie. So I'm not like losing my mind over the power scaling here. Let's see how the fight goes and everything like that. I think it would be bizarre if Luffy does way better here against Emu than he did against a fucking Gorosei on Egghead. I think that's just straight up bizarre. But I'm not like, a punch is just a punch. For me, it's more so like I don't really feel the emotional power or impact of the punch as much if 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 it's like at the expense of like cutting down a villain's sense of like presence or untouchability a little too early. I think Oda could have let Emu play a little bit more and feel like this untouchable threat for a bit longer, before having Luffy kind of just like teach him a bit of a lesson, you know? Because like it's just like if Luffy couldn't do this right away against Crocodile, you know, why do it? Why have Luffy do it right away against Emu? You know, because to me it's just the impact of like that first punch hits so much harder when it's like this isn't necessarily just like there's more build up to it. Like when Luffy comes in and punches Crocodile in the final battle, once he's like gotten water and everything like that, and he's flying in on Pell and he's fighting him on the palace rooftop. When he flies up and punches Crocodile, then to me that has a ton of weight, because it's like finally somebody was able to hit this dude, and we know that Luffy got fucked up by him before, so it really, really was not easy. To me, this is just like we could have let Emu like flex. We could have let Emu flex a little bit longer. I think before um you know humbling him a little bit. Tip tier Treviso, thanks to two. Food skill formula equals Luffy gets stronger with more food. I mean, you could say that, but like Egghead, he had a shit ton of food. Like he had a lot. Like literally during York's speech, I'm pretty sure he's eat like. There's no shortage of food on Egghead. Like there's not really. I think that's like quite a reach right there. You know. Um, personally, to say that, well, Luffy had more food here. Like, yeah, he probably has taken more time to eat even more food, but he's well fed in all of these other fights, you know? And Oda's never really like Oda has done things where like, okay, if Luffy's clearly hungry, then he's nerfed. But Oda throughout the story has never written it like, okay, Luffy is as strong as how much food he's eaten. That would be like a brand new thing to introduce right here. Like we've never really been scaling based off like, okay, is Luffy's stomach like 90% full, 80% full, 110% full, you know? Like the general rule of thumb has always just been like, yeah, if Luffy's like sufficiently full, then he's good, you know? Yeah, like Egghead, you can go read 1089 before the battle starts. Luffy's fucking he's got meat. He's eating. He's good, you know? JP, thanks for being a Supernova member for 39 months. We never were told how Emmet damaged Workery. Emmet's just that dude. He's just that dude. He's just that dude, I guess. Uh, maybe a little bit of Joy Boy's hockey rubbed off on him. JP, thanks for the 5. Those panels of the Straughts tearfully awaiting Brook's decision and wanting their help is honestly among the best scenes of Elbaf. I like that scene. I like that scene fine. Um, I like that scene fine. Tiptio Treviso, thanks for the 2. It's been 177 chapters since Emu's reveal to Punch. I think that's kind of I feel like that's a little bit disingenuous. I would argue it's been what 7 chapters since Emu's true form showed up, and that's what we're really talking about here, right? Emu the Shadow, you could argue, has actually never taken a punch, right? So that's its own separate thing. Emu the Silhouette Shadow version or whatever. Uh, everybody and their mother has been talking about like Emu's true body, like his true body showed up. This is quote unquote the real Emu, and this is what everybody was excited for, to see how strong Emu is. That's what was really making a splash in terms of obviously the story and readership excitement in terms of like, oh my god, Emu's finally fighting. Now that he's finally fighting, it's like, wow, like now we're getting to see what he can actually do if he like rolls up his sleeves and works himself, right? And it's cool that he fucked up the Straw Hats. It's cool that Loki's struggling with him. But generally, it's like Luffy's the one that matters at the end of the day. So it is just bizarre that the first time that Emu's in action, right? This is essentially Emu's first go around, right? In the story period. Luffy's able to roll up and punch him with zero problems right away. Again, when he could not do that to even a fucking like admiral, right? No offense to the admirals, but he couldn't do that to Kizaru. He could not do that to Emu's direct subordinate, Workery. So it is a little bit strange. And it's also just like, this is the section of the story where Oda's really establishing what Emu himself can do when he fights. So, you know. Luffy beat Kaido and Kizaru? I think the point you're missing is I'm saying in like when the Luffy Kizaru fight began, right? Luffy couldn't just roll up in base and punch Kizaru, right? He did roll up in base and punch the shit out of Emu. Luffy couldn't just roll up in base and damage Workery. He couldn't even do it in Gear 5, but he can roll up in base and just punch Emu. It just makes things carry less weight if there's no consistency to that, you know? Whale, thanks for the 5. Brooke said Gunko fights like she can see the future. Do you think that hints at the latent power for eyes and maybe Mihawk's clairvoyant title? Yeah, I mean that was I think that is a really good theory. I think that was who pointed it out first? Who pointed it out first? Hold on. We just saw the comment. Fuck. It was just pointed out. But yeah, the eyes I do think that's the key here. That does make a lot of sense. That's a really good observation. And like yeah, like crazy future sight, like prophetic future sight, that'd be really good good uh use for like good reason for Emu to decide to want to keep her, you know? And it also makes me wonder if like you know what? I've got a little I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to talk about this. Hold on. Let me just I'll jot it down. Um hold on. Hold on. I've got a little theory. Shit, maybe I could even drop that. No, I'm gonna stick to the video I got for next week. But I got a little theory now, based off of the possibility that people are mentioning about the eyes. But I've got a little theory as to how things may have shaken out in the Void Century, actually. Um, um, JP, thanks to 5. Emu is bleeding and not regenerating from attacks in this form. He definitely has some defense nerf in this form in exchange for offense at the moment. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because like in the other form, it's just like extreme defense, right? Like broken defense. Not even tippy top tier level hockey can damage him. I think the only thing that's actually affected him in that form, stopped him in that form has been Ragnar, right? So Loki's abilities, Ragnar's abilities, whatever. But this offense form, it's clearly really powerful fighting wise, but yeah, it's bizarre. His regeneration doesn't seem to be even as good as the God's Knights, right? Whale, thanks for the 2. The Shanks train colorful observation killing because of this? I don't know if because of this. But it's a little theory. I don't know. Because there's not really a lot of Monmares running around, right? And Shuri's not that huge of a threat. Tiptio, thanks for the 2. Is the video going to be Void Century raid failed? No, not exactly. For non-hockey users like Brook, basic observation is the same as Future Sight. Think about Luffy versus Eno. I feel like Oda not retconned, but yeah, I think he changed it a little bit because like I remember when I remember when Capone Beige basically like first introduced that this is Katakuri. His observation hockey is so good he can see a little bit into the future. There was confusion because it was just like, isn't that what they were already doing in Skypiea, right? So people had to kind of go back and rationalize, I think, a little bit, which was like, okay, in Skypiea, I guess they're just reading the intent or something like that. I think that's what everybody landed on. Okay, they're reading intent. And then Future Sight is its own thing. JP, thanks to 2. Imagine if Oda makes Loki's evil eyes have powers. That would be 3 sets of special powers in the story, right? 4. 4, actually, because it would be the Monmare eyes, the third eye ability, which is related to reading poneglyphs and stuff, but maybe also, like, it also feels observation hockey related, right? Then Loki's eyes, if that is anything at all. And then Mihawk's special eyes. Oh, and Zoro's closed eye. Whale, thanks to the 2. Enel couldn't dodge Luffy's random attacks, though. Yeah. That's a good point. So, that's a very, very good point. So, it's not literally seeing the future. Great point, Whale. Yeah, Tiptio said future planned actions. Yeah. Said Abdo. Brook is going to free Shuri because Ragnar's ice is mythical and Brook's ice is from the underworld. Oh, that would be sick. That'd be sick. It is. I mean, the concept of the underworld and stuff like that has always been really vague in One Piece, but like, it is. It is cool to me that in One Piece, the underworld is always like associated with the cold and freezing. I guess like Oda kind of just decided that. Whereas in lots of other variations, you would imagine the underworld is more like fire or burning in hell. I don't know. The cold of the afterlife, the cold of the underworld. I think that's cool. Also, this is like a really random observation, but I don't know why it's not talked about more. But maybe just because it's a silly observation. But isn't it weird that Venus Juro is just basically like a carbon copy of Brook's abilities, but just like way stronger, right? Like Venus Juro is just Brook, Brook 3.0, you know, right? Super fast, skeletal swordsman with ice attacks, with ice swordsmanship, right? It's a carb. It's basically what Brook wishes he could be, right? It's just everything that Brook has going for him is exactly Venus Juro's power. Venus Juro is basically just like super powered Brook, right? Like Brook 50x or something like that, right? Super fast skeleton, ice swordsmanship, you know? Nordic legend says hell is cold. Interesting, yeah. More just Pinky too, now that you mentioned it. The horse is the only part of it that doesn't fit, but that's just because uh like Oda needed some like he's doing a mythical form for Venus Juro, but it's a skeleton horse, right? That's the main thing. It's like a skeleton horse. The horse is the only part that doesn't really fit the equation, but you know, it's a skeleton form that he takes in which he gains super speed like Brook and ice swordsmanship like Brook. Just like Loki's Kaido 100x. I don't think Loki's Kaido 100x, but I do think Loki is like uh you know, just Kaido if you buffed all of his stats basically. Whale, thanks for the 5. Do you think Shamrock's existence means Shanks won't just be killed and removed? Would Oda keep an identical version in the plot after Shanks died? I feel like Shamrock probably goes down before Shanks. Whether he dies or not, I don't know. I don't know. That's an interesting idea. Didn't you play God of War? I played a little bit of God of War. I played through the Light Elves section. I did not enjoy God of War. I mean, I think I get the appeal being the story, right? Like, because at first the story was really irritating me because I was like, I don't care about this fucking kid. I hate this kid. This kid fucking sucks. But then the cutscenes kept going, and then at a certain point I was like, okay, I am starting to feel for like I'm liking the dynamic and the relationship between um him and the kid. Like I like where this is going, kind of. I didn't drop God of War because of the story. I just dropped it because like there was no the gameplay was just the most repetitive gameplay ever. Like, I just didn't understand. The elves are so annoying. No, it's just like what do you call? Kaido's not stronger than Loki. No, I meant Loki is maybe I misspoke, but Loki's a upgraded version of Kaido in pretty much every way, but not like way. I don't think 10x. I don't think 10x. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want people. I don't know. They're both very strong characters, you know. Anyway, what was I saying? You played the previous games? No, I did not play the previous games, but a lot of people told me I could just start with God of War 2018, and yeah. Uh, my main critique of the combat for God of War feels really cool, but there's no variety in what you fight at all. There's no variety in the fights or the level designs or any like it's it's just you're just made to fight a mob over and over again, and then like you move like it's just it's very the gameplay loop is very strange. Like I think I would like the combat a lot more if I got to fight more interesting stuff, you know? But there's no variety in the enemies. So it's kind of just like, you know, my experience is basically you you get a horde of like orcs or whatever the fuck they're called, Draugr, you know, thrown at you. You beat them all up, combo them or whatever, right? And that's fun to some degree. Combat system cool or whatever. Um and then you do that. You just fuck up all these Draugr, okay? Then you progress another 50 feet in a straight line, and then you get another set of Draugr identical to the previous one. And it's like, okay, I fight these. Then you progress another 50 feet. You fight like maybe a set of Draugr with like a different color now, but it's like the same thing. You just do the same thing over and over and over again 3 times in a row. And then you progress a little further, and then you get like a dumb puzzle that's not fun to solve at all. And then it's like, okay, got past the puzzle. What progress 50 feet? Now what happens? Oh, another horde of Draugr, right? And it's usually just like the same. You're doing the same encounter over and over and over again, but just reskinned 50 different times. I don't find that enjoyable. So I was trying to find out like why is the game so well acclaimed? It seems to be because of the story, but a lot of people also think the combat's good. I think the combat system is good, but to me it's like a combat system is only as good as like the enemies that you face in it, right? Like I haven't played a ton of games, single player games, but like, the ones that I've enjoyed lately, I do want to get back to Black Myth Wukong or whatever, but like Souls games or like Wukong, which I played recently or whatever, like there's genuinely more variety in of enemies and enemy encounters in a single level of one of those games than there seems to be in the entire God of War game. Like because I went and looked up later on, like, does enemy variety change? And no, it's pretty much generally the same thing. It's just the same type of enemy and some reskins. Like, at first I thought, oh, is this just like a level 1 thing? But then I got to level 2, which I guess is the ice elf or like the light elves thing. And I'm like, no, the light elves thing, it's not Draugr anymore or whatever, but it's just like, okay, we fight some evil elves, but then you repeat that encounter 50 times till the level's over. It's just fight light elves, fight light elves, walk a bit further, fight light elves, walk a bit further, puzzle. That's not really a fun puzzle. It's not like a Zelda puzzle that's really fun. It's just a dumb throw your axe puzzle, same type of puzzle as before. Walk a little further, light elves, walk a little further, light elves, walk a little further, puzzle, walk a little further, light elves. I'm like, when am I supposed to be having fun? That's what I didn't like about that. Yeah, so what I don't get about it is like Ace One says, yeah, it definitely lacks variety, but I generally don't get it because it's like, isn't that an understand? Like, what is the appeal of it, right? Because like, what are we? What? Why do some people really enjoy it? I guess that's what I'm missing. Because that's like, I feel like from the discussions that I've seen, because I am trying to understand from the discussions that I've seen, it's like people will acknowledge like, yeah, the enemy variety is not good, or like the enemy encounter variety is not good. I'm like, okay, but then what's the? To me, that's like just a very blanket sort of thing, which is like, yeah, the game's just repetition over and over again. You know? Did I beat Wukong? No, I took a long break. Took a long break. I do want to get back to that. Once I start playing a game, I just spend so much time. So I had to take a break for a little bit. Chillax Rita says, "Don't ask me. I don't enjoy it." But I know the game is very well loved. I guess I just don't get. I assume it has to be the story. I assume it has to be the story. There's one other aspect about God of War that I didn't really love, but I can understand. I acknowledge this is a personal preference thing, which is I think I don't love there's skill trees where you can attribute points and stuff like that quite a bit to combos or things like that. I generally, maybe it's just because I don't play games that much. I tend to find when there's like skill trees with a bunch of options for like this combo, that combo, etc. I think I don't like that as much. Um, I think I like a little bit of optionality for me for preferences of what I can do fighting style wise. But I kind of prefer to um what do you call? I kind of prefer if the game gives me the move set straight up and I don't have to keep upgrading to like a skill tree personally. But that's like a personal thing. That's like a maybe a get good scrub type maybe that's the response to that or something like that. I don't know. It's not even cuz like I think that the skill tree is dumb or like the combos aren't a good idea. It's more so like, oh, if you give me all of these options, then like I'm gonna just the way I work, I'm gonna want to spend a lot of time testing and trying out to figure out what is the best like combination for me of things to have, and like it starts to feel more like work, if that makes sense, because I just see the big skill tree. It's like, oh, you could go down this route or this route or this route and upgrade this or this or this, and then also you can upgrade your armor pieces like this and this and this, and then like just the way I am, I don't really like to just wing it. I kind of actually want to sit down and like test this, test that, test this, test that. So it feels like it's I feel like I need to do a lot of experimentation before I can finally like sit down and have fun. I also didn't love that as much about Wukong, but it is what it is. You know, yeah. Skill trees gatekeep. I mean, I totally get why a lot of people love skill. I'm not trying to. I fully acknowledge this is a personal preference thing, and maybe I just suck, so maybe that's just the thing. But yeah, like I don't. To me, it just feels like, oh, this is like another thing I gotta figure out that's not in the game itself. Like that's not gameplay oriented itself. It's like I gotta figure it out first before that I can enjoy the gameplay. So I don't really like that as much. Whale, thanks to two. NL couldn't dodge Luffy's random attacks though. Yeah, that's like that is a great uh example right there, right? NL, the moment like with NL, the whole idea was that he's this all powerful, unbeatable god, and then Luffy rolls up and it's just like hard counter, right? NL was never supposed to be like a really difficult or daunting villain for Luffy, because Luffy, like the whole idea was just that you're supposed to see NL for so long as this unbeatable force, and then like Luffy just humiliates him, right? And that's why we get that crazy like iconic NL face, right? Because in that moment where NL realized like, oh my god, like this dude just like nobody fucking touches me, but this dude just walked up and like socked me in the face. That's the moment that all of NL's aura just disappears, right? I don't think I want to see Emu written as a villain like that, you know? Like, yeah, there's the similarity in terms of like NL's this god figure and Emu's this god figure, but like Doflamingo is also this god figure, but Oda actually did Doflamingo justice in the sense like Doflamingo wasn't just supposed to be a villain that Luffy comes along to humiliate, right? So if you're looking at the main villains throughout the series who have actually been like these towering, intimidating obstacles for Luffy that have a lot of um weight to them, right? Like a crocodile, like a like a Doflamingo, like a Katakuri, like a Kaido, right? The villains that really have that sort of presence and status and aura or whatever and kind of maintain that. It's never easy for Luffy to just come up and punch them, right? That's the point, right? The villains where it's easy for Luffy to just like come up and sock are villains that are basically like uh sort of overhyped in a sense, deliberately, and then Luffy kind of comes in to humiliate them, you know? They're not so much like these big mountains that Luffy needs to climb up to challenge. It's kind of like, "Oh no, I'm going to put you in your place." Like Luffy put NL in his place. I would rather not see NL or Emu of all people get the NL treatment, if that makes sense. Whale, thanks for the five. Do you think Shamrock's existence means Shanks won't just be killed and removed? Would Oda keep an identical Oh no, we covered this. Sorry, Whale. I think I missed that comment then. Sorry. Tucci sent Uncle Alert for 440. Wait, why am I getting Uncle Alerts? What does that mean? Thank you, Tucci. Whale, thanks for the two. You prefer Laughdale at Abyss or below Reverse Mountain? I like Laughdale on the moon, but that's obviously kind of an out there idea. Um, yeah, that's where I prefer Laughdale. If I had to pick between your two choices, I don't know what abyss means necessarily, but below reverse mountain, yeah, take things back full circle. Maybe that could be cool. That could be cool. Guy, thanks for the two. And yeah, I don't see a lot of people talking about this. Is Candle and Grow another genie situation? Yeah, I haven't seen much discussion about that. I feel like it's gotta be, but that's pretty crazy that it's just not like. I guess that's implied. That's crazy. It's interesting that Leuven didn't start a war over that with the Celestial Dragons. I mean, I guess you risk so many people's lives for that, but he did start a war over Shuri, which is obviously understandable, but he basically fucked. No. I mean, like, what father's not going to do that? But essentially, he fucked over all of Hesperia Kingdom for the sake of Shuri, which is a little complicated. Like, it's right as a father, but I can see why he had to lie to the people of Hesperia, you know? Like, because I think a lot of them might have been like, yeah, maybe just give them Shuri, you know? I don't know. Tiptier Treviso, thanks to two. You think Candle died of love sickness? Check email. Check email. I, is this like a full? Is this like a long ass theory, man? Let's see. Oh, it's a meme. KGB fandom in a nutshell. Hakazono doesn't even use a pen. He just pours. I don't know what this meant. Oh, Kagurabachi fandom in a nutshell. I don't really know what to make of this. He doesn't use a pen. He just pours ink on his dick and starts fucking the paper. I don't really get this. I don't know what to make of. This is very random, Tiptia. What does this have to do with anything? It's a Kagurabachi joke? Ah, I see. It's completely okay. Yeah, Reuven wasn't a really good king, to be honest. Yeah. Oh, you think that was a lie? I thought Shuri was lying, to be honest. I didn't even consider that Reuven might have been the one lying. But we know the truth. We know that it's true that the Celestial Dragons did really want Shuri, right? We do know that's true. It's just a super weird Kagurabachi fans thing. What? Kagurabachi fans say anything? I don't get it. Okay. We're going through a lobotomy phase right now? Okay. I don't get it. Okay. Alright, continue on. We know one thing is true, which is that the Celestial Dragons probably really wanted Shuri, right? The claim that they wanted a bunch of slaves for the king from the kingdom, I think arguably doesn't hold up because we've never known the Celestial Dragons obviously terrible, the worst of the worst, yada yada. But as far as we know, they only take slaves in bulk from unaffiliated kingdoms, you know? Because their whole system, I'm not saying that it's not true. Like maybe they randomly wanted 1,000 slaves plus Shuri. Like we know for a fact they wanted Shuri, right? So then it's like, is the 1,000 slaves claim true? Like they wanted Shuri plus the 1,000 slaves? I I low key am inclined to think that maybe they didn't want the 1,000 slaves because they tend to pick up those slaves from unaffiliated kingdoms, right? That's what's kind of established. Like they can pick up those slaves from wherever, you know, like a kingdom like God Valley. You know, they're like, okay, you guys, you're all now on the board for whatever, right? The Celestial Dragons generally, from what we've seen, they don't just arbitrarily um demand thousands of slaves from the affiliated kingdom because it logically it kind of fucks with their whole image and protection racket, right? We know that they'll go around and just take slaves, like we saw that happen at Saboti. Like it's like, oh, you're my wife now, right? But those are like one-off incidents. Generally speaking, it's not like they're arbitrarily like when the Celestial Dragons decide that they need to like fuck up a kingdom, it usually is a big deal, right? Like Ohara was something that the Gorosei had to like ponder quite a bit about, you know? The idea is that all of the kingdoms are bought into the Celestial Dragon system because you pay the Celestial Gold, you get protection. You don't pay the Celestial Gold, you're now persona non grata, you're unaffiliated, you can become a lawless land, we can turn you into slaves, etc. If the Celestial Dragons kind of abuse that a lot and we're just like, Alabasta, send us thousands of slaves, like fucking Dressrosa send us thousands of slaves, like there's not really recorded instances in One Piece of them doing that because it kind of ruins the whole core concept of the dystopia that's going on, which is like, if you play nice, we'll treat you nice, but if you step out of line, then then you're basically cattle, right? That's like the brilliance of the world that Oda's set up here. I think it's like it becomes a little arbitrary when it's just like, oh, you guys are paying all the celestial gold and playing by all the rules, but we want thousands of slaves anyway. I think if that were the case, then all kingdoms would kind of be aware that we're like the only reason this whole system works is because the majority of kingdoms are under the impression that like, you know, we're under a good democratic system where like, the world government treats us right. That's why we're affiliated, etc. Like most kingdoms seem to implicitly trust the world government and the system that they're a part of. It's not like you hear kingdoms like Drum Kingdom being like, oh, that's why like 1,000, etc. Yeah, nobody would pay the like. Yeah, like the world government. They have to continue to like project a veneer of like being genuine. You know, that's the catch here. So like they've got plenty of other islands to pull slaves from. It would not be in their best interests to continually demand thousands of slaves from all of their affiliated nations, because then that's a revolt in the making, right? So like generally speaking, from everything we've seen, the world government does actually treat kingdoms right. Like that's why incidents like Ohara are such a big deal, right? It's like, oh my god, well, it's because they deserve, like, that's a legendary event, and it's because the world government spun it as they deserved it, right? That's why you have citizens really confused when they're like, oh, why would the world government stage this attack with Frankie's battleships? Like, why would the world government that? What are you talking about, right? Like, if it was common knowledge that the world government does shit like that, I think the whole One Piece world doesn't work as well. Yeah, Tapio's like, it doesn't make sense for the Celestial Dragons to go to war for just 1,000 slaves. Yeah, I mean, even if it's just like a crushing war, like just fuck up Esperia, that's one thing, but I don't know. Akash Bana says Esperia couldn't pay the tribute that year, though. That is a good point. You're right. You're right. I completely forgot about that. You are 100% right. I think that makes more sense. Thank you for the catch, Akash. That makes more sense. So if we follow the sequence of events, then it would likely be multiple things, right? Esperia couldn't pay the tribute, therefore they demanded slaves as compensation. That actually does follow. That is in line with the Celestial Dragon's MO. And then Shuri became the additional demand, right? Tiptio says the gold didn't happen until the fog, and the fog didn't happen until Shuri wasn't given up. Alright, we got a lot of options here. I'm gonna have to reread the backstory. World government doesn't really interfere if you pay the tribute. Yeah, that's generally always been the case, because otherwise the whole system just doesn't work. The majority of the world and the kings of the world have just implicit trust in the world government. And yeah, you don't really hear instances of like we've been to a lot of kingdoms. You don't hear instances of like kingdoms that are in line with the system. Like, Drum Kingdom, like Alabasta, like Dressrosa. Like the world government doesn't really they don't have any horror stories about the world government. The fog is just so weird. I wonder if the fog is related to the man marked by flame. Like, I still think it's possible that this dude Grow could be the man marked by flames. He would be pretty old by now, though. But my theory is that the man marked by flames does have wind related abilities, and therefore things like spreading fog and stuff like that might be up his alley. I don't know. Slowpoke Picnic says an underrated moment of this chapter and One Piece in general, for me personally, is the reminder that most people don't even know devil fruits exist. I don't know why I like it, but I do. Thank you. I actually really, really like that. First of all, this chapter answered a couple things that people had question marks about before, which was like, why did Brook just immediately believe that Shuri was evil and stuff? He didn't. He actually like pushed. We saw this chapter that he pushed back a lot. He pushed back a lot, but she gave a very convincing speech and also stabbed him through the head, so it's hard to not believe that. And in general, supernatural stuff just doesn't really exist in the One Piece world to people like him, right? Like people in East Blue and stuff, like they barely have an understanding of, the supernatural stuff that's out there, right? And one of like this I really like that Oda kept it consistent and in perspective, because remember when this whole backstory started? This is very random, but I still remember this, which is like people were talking about how like, oh wait, maybe Brook is like was Brook when he was alive, like he's captain of the guard here and stuff. Does that mean that when he was alive he was like a top tier fighter? Did he have hockey? All of that stuff, right? People were speculating like Candle must be like crazy strong and stuff like that. It's like, no. This is what this isn't. Brook is captain of the guard here in a fucking like West Blue country, right? Even in the Grand Line, like Paradise, like the first half of the Grand Line, which is way stronger than any of the Blues, Dalton, Pell, characters like that, they don't even have hockey, right? So Brook in a random kingdom in West Blue, he's definitely not as strong as he is today, right? But that was like I think people got really excited because it's like, oh my god, Brook must have secretly been really strong. It's like, no, this is West Blue shit. They don't even know about like forget hockey. They don't even know about fucking devil fruits. Like this is like close to basically being just like I wouldn't say Johnny Yasaku level or whatever, but I wouldn't be surprised if like Brook in this flashback loses to East Blue Zoro, you know? Like I don't know if Brook's at a level where he could fuck up Sea Kings like Luffy and Zoro and Sanji could in East Blue, you know? He just seems to be a strong fighter. That's about it. Yeah, they're strong like Sanji and Baratier is oddly strong for their area. Yeah. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Like when the flashback started, people were just like, okay, like we're too New World. Like the New World has adjusted our perception, but it's like no, we had to go through like East Blue and then go up a level to the fucking Paradise first half of the Grand Line, and then go through like all that shit to get to the New World. Like we're dealing right now with the top tippy top like 1% strongest characters in the world. And so here, yeah, like being the king of a royal, like being the royal guard of like a king, like if you're Kyros or something like that, that means something. You're pretty strong. But West Blue, that's not really. I don't know. Yeah, New World is just so crazy strong. People take it for granted and apply it to elsewhere. Yeah. Mort says wild stuff randomly. Well, I think that that's true because like just think of like West Blue is a lower level than Paradise, right? It's a lower level than Paradise. We know that. It's nowhere close. Again, they don't even fucking know about devil fruits, right? This is just a kingdom in West Blue, right? And if you look at Paradise, uh Dalton versus East Blue Zoro, I'd take East Blue Zoro, you know? Even Pell versus like East Blue Luffy and Zoro, I would take East Blue Luffy and Zoro. Right? Like they were punching out like Luffy in East Blue was punching out the Sea King and Momu and shit like that, you know? Yeah, characters like Luffy alone could conquer kingdoms in the blues by himself. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, he didn't know about devil fruits back then. Maybe he thought it was just an out of body experience. Hey, Harley. Harley, come here. Harley. My other dog's feeling very neglected right now because oh shit, I'm supposed to fucking feed him. Okay, hold on. My other dog's feeling very neglected right now because all the attention is going to Casey. Hold on. Pell's defense is too strong. Is it? I don't know. I mean, it's at least a toss up what happens between like East Blue Luffy, Zoro versus someone like Pell, right? I know Zoro fucks up. I know East Blue Zoro fucks up well, yeah, East Blue Zoro should fuck up Dalton. Yeah. Pell can tank nukes. Oh, my bad, my bad. Never mind, never mind. It's not till the new world that they can beat Pell. All right, let me feed my dog. I'll be right back. All right. All right, all right. That nuke would have folded Brogy. Yeah. All right, all right. And do I think Candle died of love sickness? Um, no, I think that that's kind of sick. No, I definitely don't think so. I don't think whatever happened between her and Grow was consensual. Said Abdo, thanks a lot. The Japanese, for explaining this, the Japanese for the two different eyes literally translates to bipolar pupils or bipolar eyes. Yeah, just, I'm really curious because, like, putting and this, like, why is Oda writing multiple eye abilities in right here? It's really interesting. It's really curious. I wonder if they're related in some way, the three-eyed and the bipolar eyes, but I don't know. And it must be a general Monmare family thing, right? All right. We might be wrapping up stream right about here because, yeah, my fiance's back and we got to take care of the dog a little bit. So, uh, yeah, just check her out and all of that. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for tuning in. I know our stream schedule has been a little bit off lately. I'm trying to get back into a usual rhythm. Just a ton of stuff going on at the moment. Dog obviously adds another element. So I'm gonna try and do Monday stream like usual. Try and do Monday stream like usual. Um, and just keep the treat, like, get back into the usual stream rhythm. But I know we skipped a Monday stream last week and stuff like that. So I'll try and do this Monday stream, but no promises. But we should be back to a usual stream schedule soon. So please just be a little bit patient. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. And with that, I will